Hi there. Monika Koller Schinca is joining me from Luzern, Switzerland, where she supports people for personal energy management. Monika began her career as a food scientist studying at ETH Zurich and the Institute of Human Nutrition. Wanting more of a human connection in her work, she furthered her studies in coaching and has been working as a coach and trainer since 2008. She is a master practitioner and trainer in logosynthesis and is on the board of Logosynthesis International Association. Thank you for joining me, Monika.
Thank you, Kathy.
So to begin, I like to learn how people were introduced to logosynthesis. Can you tell us your experience and why you decided to train in this model?
Yeah, actually, I worked together with someone who already worked with logosynthesis. His name is Richard Scherer. And he one day said, you have to go to Bad Ragaz to get to know logosynthesis. So he organized or helped me organize that first part of the basic seminar. And I had to organize quite a lot of things because I had 3 small children, and one of them even had the birthday on that day. I went to Bad Ragaz.
Oh.
So the grandmother came and I went to Bad Ragaz, and I was so fascinated by the model of logosynthesis that I always went back again. But of course, I couldn't go very often because of the 3 children. It was quite a lot of work to organize everything, but I tried to go twice a year.
Wow.
And
Yeah, it's a big commitment, and I can kind of relate to that. I was so busy when I was first introduced to it, but I just saw so much potential for it that it's like I am going to invest in this because I can see how it can be so beneficial. Yeah. Wow. So prior to your coaching career, you enjoyed a career as a food scientist. And so what was so important to you about guiding people in personal energy management to encourage you to switch careers?
yeah, I had a very interesting job. I developed ice cream, but then I realized I prefer to work with human beings more than with products. So I started my first education in coaching with NLP. It was in the year 2001. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. It felt like not working when I did work with NLP or with coaching. So my wish was to switch career if possible. And then I got to know Richard Scherer. He helped me to start in the coaching business.
So most people want to be healthy and follow healthy lifestyle practices like, healthy eating and exercising. And yet they still feel stressed after it all. And this can sometimes get discouraging. It can feel frustrating. How do you coach someone to manage their energy in this case?
Actually, the important thing that it's not only about nutrition, sports, relaxing. It's more than that. It's about mental health. So I actually focused a lot on nutrition, but then I realized it's much more important what's going on in our head. So I'm still taking care about my nutrition, but my focus is definitely on what I think about what I eat or what I do and all that kind of things. Because in the end of the day, that's taking or finding more energy than everything else. And if we don't take care about that and release the energy where it's bound, then we will feel tired, we will feel stressed, we will not feel good. There is one very good example for that. I don't know if you know Anita Morjani.
Yes.
She did everything for not getting cancer, but she was so focused on, or so focused on her fear for cancer, that she got cancer in the end. And I think that explains very well that our thinking is much more important.
Yeah, and I think you bring a good point up there, because we talk about mental health and we talk about the thinking element. And a lot of times we're kind of conditioned that we can cognitively or rationally think our way through it. And yet in logosynthesis, we look at the thoughts more as a reaction to something that's frozen in our energy system. So like a memory that keeps triggering a thought. So, we want to control it, and yet it's an automatic reaction. And that's what I find is so beautiful about logosynthesis, because when we just sit and be with a thought, then we can identify what's triggering that stress response and shift it. So in some ways, it's a little different from how we think mental health is, I guess, isn't it? Like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's much more than only memories. There are patterns, beliefs, and even what we think is going to happen in the future has an impact on our life now, in the here and now. So our thoughts are very, very important at every moment of our life. And everything that happened in the past has an influence on our here and now life, unless we cut the energy strengths.
Yeah.
Unless it has an impact unless we don't react anymore. It's neutral for us because it will always be our past. But of course, it's very important if you still react on that or not.
Yeah, because a lot of our, in our healthcare systems, because it's energy and it's feelings, you can't really see that. So you're kind of looking for the cause of it. And because it's really hard, unless you have a very structured process to get to that memory, belief, or imagination that's triggering it, to actually see the cause. So then we focus on coping. So we think we need more energy, so we work really hard to exercise more, and we spend a lot of time and energy on making sure we're eating all the right foods. And then people tell us, well, you should just relax a little bit more. And I know with even from my experience, when someone told me to relax, that didn't always go over so well, right? Because I was conditioned otherwise, right? So I couldn't really think my way to relaxing. Do you find that with?
I know that very well. I seem to have the same condition as you. I'm working on that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And then yet when we kind of identify those, those early family patterns, or that, because I can identify the triggers and start to shift them, and it's not just one thing that's caused me to not be able to relax, so to think that have to be busy. But over a course of time, just like any healthy living practice, right, it's not one and done. You kind of do it over time, then you notice the shifts.
I think in a therapy, both, or in a coaching, both is important, to look back to the past, but also to look at the present moment.
Yes.
To see how can I how can I live my life in a good way? What can I do? But then it's all, from time to time, it's important to look back. And I think some forms of therapy are not, they don't have a good way of cutting off that energy from the past. So they just leave it out and focus only on the thing that you look to the future, and you hope for a better life in the future. But that's much more difficult to change, to get into that change, because the energy is still in the past.
So there's an element of feeling energized that's about being fully present in the moment, and even when our situation is challenging. So we experience more energy when it's in flow and connected to our purpose to help us get through what's challenging and that stay connected with what's meaningful. Can you speak to this as to how logosynthesis supports it?
Yeah, one of the most important things in logosynthesis is to find your purpose, your meaning in your life, why you are here. That's one of the most important questions. And then often people are also confronted with the second most important question, which is, why do you think you can't go on that way? What is blocking you from going where you want to go, or where your purpose is in life? And we can then, the first question, logosynthesis can't answer the first question. That's really, everybody has to find it for himself. But we always go back to that question again and again. And then the second thing is that we can remove all the blocks that prevent you from going where you are supposed to go, or where you would like to go, but you might think it's not possible, or I have a family, I have duties, I have whatever, I can't do that what I would like to do. And once you remove the energy from these blocks, you start thinking in a different way, and you see possibilities, you see chances, you speak to people who show you the way. So it's maybe a little bit like magic when you work with logosynthesis, because new doors are opening up.
Yeah, and it's something that you can't really predict what's going to open, right? Like you can't predict what's going to happen when the energy shifts. But when it shifts, you do see the possibility.
Exactly, because the energy is free to think, what is the best solution, or where is my way? How can I go?
Yeah, one of the examples that I share sometimes is, working with successful professionals. A lot of times there's that sense of responsibility and it just weighs so heavy, right? Like they feel the tension and I feel responsible for it all because they've got important roles and they've got work and family and everyday life. And there's that heaviness to it. And then when you shift the energy in it, it's not that you're no longer responsible, but it doesn't feel so heavy. And one of the things that seems to show up quite often is people recognize the resources around them. Like, I'm not alone in this. I'm part of a team, and other people can do it and can support it as well. So that, to me, if you think of personal energy, that feels very much more powerful than being stuck in a pattern of thinking I have to do it all and feel responsible.
Yeah, of course. And maybe there is also a fear behind that they could be replaced with someone else. And once they realize they don't have to be the only ones who know to do the work, they can be replaceable, and that's all right. Then it's much more relaxing. They can go on holiday without problems. They can take a day off without having that fear that they might lose their job.
Yeah.
A lot of things like that are going on as well in people's minds.
Yeah. And then when they feel more calm, then the people around them feel more calm too, right? Like the tone of voice changes and those looks change. And yeah. So do you have a story, maybe an example of working with someone to clear a block
Yeah, of course.
to get more energy? Yeah.
I have several examples. I worked once with a woman. She had a fear of leaving her house. So everything that was outside of her garden felt like dangerous. And she knew that this was coming from her mom, because her mom always said the word outside is dangerous. And for her, it was very difficult to travel. Even to travel to town was difficult, or further away was even more difficult. So she could not really enjoy going on holiday. It was difficult to see a friend a bit further away, or to go shopping in town and lots of things like that. And when we looked at it step by step, what was causing that fear, we solved one by one. And then the last thing, something was showing up in her body, a blockage that showed in her back. And once we resolved that, she was free of that fear. It was gone.
Wow.
And yeah, and then she could do what she liked to do. And I mean, in her mind was always clear that the world was not so dangerous. I mean, it is a little bit dangerous. It's not that we have to think about what we are doing, but of course the fear was no help for her, or that big fear.
And then once it's resolved, it doesn't come back again, right? Like it.
Exactly. It didn't come back.
Yeah. So it took a couple layers or a couple cycles of logosynthesis to get to the underlying trigger, or to get all the triggering aspects of it.
Exactly.
Wow. How liberating. Yeah.
And then another example was someone who came with a bad headache after an accident. And there we looked at all the the steps in the accident, what she has seen in the moment of that accident, what she heard, what she felt. And then step by step, we could resolve that problem. And her headache went, I think, not completely away, but it was much better, much, much better. And she could also accept the fact that that accident had a meaning in her life, because in one of the first hours she didn't want to hear that. And then I came back to that, we discussed it, and then she was more open to look at it and see, okay, why is it in my life? It's everything that is in your life has a meaning, otherwise it wouldn't be there. So can look at it and say, what does it tell me? What can I learn from it?
Yeah. And that can be hard to face, right? Like, and kind of to your point in the beginning, we might block that altogether, but as we kind of resolve the layers and then be able to, it's more of an acceptance that it is in your life, and then you can move forward from there. Yeah, I guess, as opposed to saying, I'm blocking it and I'm not acknowledging it, but we still get stuck in it, right? Like so many of the challenges we face, if they block us and keep us stuck in that point in time, it doesn't benefit us to move forward, does it?
Exactly. And often our life gives us the possibility to look at things more carefully when something happens, like a disease or an accident. It's like someone who tells you, hey, look what is happening in your life. Something is not the way it should be. So that's a chance. We should see it as a chance to change our thinking, our behaving, whatever.
So on that stream, if you look at what's happening in the world right now, we're all kind of looking like, okay, what's the lesson in this? Because it doesn't feel really calm or settled, and a lot of times it's kind of blocking us from moving forward, right? It doesn't feel safe. So, how do you work with someone? Yeah, how do you work with someone on what's going on? Like, it's not in their personal world, it's bigger than that. It's happening in the world.
So one of the things is for me to not focus too much on what is going on outside. Look first to the inside, look to yourself, and you can always look, why is it triggering you? Is there a fear or a fantasy? What could happen? And I mean, it happens all the time. I have that when when COVID started. I once had a fantasy that the whole family was how do you say, affected, and my husband had to go to Italy and to one of these hospitals, and I had really a bad fantasy. So I just got rid of that fantasy because it never happened like that. And I think the same things happen when something is going on far away. It's not nice, I know that, but it's no use when I feel bad about it here. What my contribution is to feel my inner peace, and then I contribute to the peace in the world. That's my way of doing it. So I help people to find their inner peace so they can contribute to the peace in the world, and to feel better on their own. It's like we don't have war in the small world, and after, when many people do that, the war in the outside world will disappear as well.
Yeah, and I think, Willem kind of talks to that a lot. It's about, a lot of times we use the word, our employer or the organization or the government, but it's all individuals within that we have to make connection to, right? And when we keep reacting to it, it does get in the way of actually taking meaningful action. So when we feel peaceful, then we're better able to contribute in a more meaningful way, I guess, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
So in addition to coaching individuals, you also teach people how to use logosynthesis in their everyday life through self-coaching. So can you maybe describe the benefits of the self-coaching piece?
Yeah, and the self-coaching is, one thing is they really learn how to use logosynthesis, but the other thing is, and I think that's maybe more effective than the first part, they start looking at the world in a different way. They start thinking in different ways. So, for example, they learn to make a difference between my energy and the energy of someone else, so the non-me energy. And once you realize that maybe something is not your energy, you can just let it go like that, because you realize, that's not my issue. So I don't have to be concerned about that. So you just let it go. If it's not going like that, then you can always use the sentences and they do the work for you. But I think the changing of just the realization that not everything is yours helps a lot.
Yes.
And of course, when you learn how to use logosynthesis, you can use it in, for small things in everyday life that maybe get you angry or sad. And then you just use the sentences and you feel better. So it's really a relief when you have emotions and you don't feel good about these emotions. Then you just say the sentences and you feel better. And maybe after the self-coaching seminar, you're not able to solve, very old stuff. Maybe that's not possible, but it's really a relief in everyday life.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like if we're, we spend a lot of time and energy trying to cope with everything that's happening around us, right? Or we're so busy trying to change everything that's happening around us. We've got to change it all. But when we just change our reaction to it, then, people respond differently to us when we're calmer and more peaceful. Yeah.
I think just to realize that it's so simple, that something happens and we react to it. And actually, we can decide what our reaction could be.
Yes. Yes.
That's the point.
I think, sometimes where people struggle is like, how can it be so simple, right? Like, I don't even want to look at it because obviously it can't work because nothing can be so simple. But what they don't realize is what has gone into developing those 3 specific sentences as far as an understanding of, psychotherapy, of healing, of spirituality, of power of words to shift energy versus, taking a power saw to it. But, there's those elements that have been built into this precise structured model that makes it that makes it simple. And, you know, a lot of times we might question it, but I always say we don't really question a surgeon when he goes in to operate on our knee, right? And so I kind of view this the same way. It's been developed so that we can benefit from it. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So one last question. No, I have two last questions. One is just a little bit about the Logosynthesis International Association, because you're a board member on this association. Can you tell us why it's important to you to contribute at this level?
So one thing is that Logosynthesis as a registered trademark has to have a good quality. I mean, as we said, it is simple, so everybody might use it, but people are not allowed to write the label Logosynthesis unless they are trained professionally. And that's very important because, I mean, it looks simple at the first sight, but then when you go dive deeper into it, it's not so simple anymore. And it has to be work that has to be carefully done. So for me, that point, the quality, to ensure quality all over the world, that people really work on a, you know, in the way we want to, or Logosys is meant to be, that's very important for me. That's why I'm part of the LIA board, but not only for this, because I'm actually, I work for the events. So it's also about spreading Logosynthesis. And that's nice in the LIA board to you organize a big event online or offline, and then to invite people to get to know or to dive deeper in the model of Logosynthesis. That's very good. I like that.
Yeah, it's very energizing just to see people's, well, their first response, and then as they continue to learn more, just to see the shifts in people over time, because a big part of working in the Logosynthesis training is doing your own self work, right? Your personal work. And so some people are just going to walk away from that because it's like, I don't want to do my own work, right? But yeah, we are challenged to do our own work. And I've seen huge shifts in people over time as far as the energy that they show up with. And I know even for myself, I would say I feel much more energized, much more calm and relaxed and focused than what I did when I came into it. And did it take work? Yes, it did. And, you know, so, and it did take people calling me out on some of my reactions. And yes, but there's, you know, there's that community to do it. And it's so invigorating to me to, you know, to see people kind of come together and share what's possible, because sometimes we kind of lose hope that there is a, you know, a bright future ahead, or we lose hope that we can heal from something that's been traumatizing. And to see people regain that hope is beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. So what message do you have for someone struggling to find more energy and enjoy their life more fully?
I think one of the most important points at that we often, or many people, look in the outside world for happiness or for peace. So they try to buy a lot of material to feel better, or they go to nice places to feel better, but they will find out that their happiness and the peace is inside of them. So that's the only way how you can feel better. And once you do what you're meant to do, so you do what you are here for, then you automatically have more energy available, because it's flowing. It's not, you know, you're not stuck every time or every moment. And then it just feels better. You attract people who are meant to be in your life, or are important in your life. And you might leave behind people who are not helping you, or not making you feel good. I mean, of course, it's you you decide about your feelings. But I mean, when your energy is flowing, it's just you have more energy available. That's more blockages are solved, the more flow you have.
And really, that's the definition of healthy living, right? Like a lot of us aspire to be healthy. And if you feel energized and you're feeling healthy, then yeah, you're on the right track. So yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for helping us to better understand how logosynthesis can help us manage our personal energy. I find your work very inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you very much, Kathy.